Hello, and welcome to Intro to Adobe Premiere Pro. This is a video editing software that you can use at any of our Gwinnett County Public Library locations for free. My name is Anna, I'm a Learning Lab Specialist, and today I'll be walking you through the basics of assembly and editing in Premiere Pro. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to do is open our software. And if you're not already signed into Adobe Creative Cloud, it'll prompt you to sign in or create an account if you don't already have one. I'm already signed in, so I'll go ahead and click on where it says New Project up in the top left. Now you'll want to title your project. I am just going to call mine Nature. And don't worry about anything else in this window unless you have another location that you want to autosave it to, in which case you can select that location in Browse. But for me, I'm going to leave it where it wants to save it, and I'm going to press OK. So that opens up our empty project. Now, the first tab we're going to look at today is the one we're already on. It's called Assembly. And if it doesn't open right up to that one, you can click on Assembly up here in your tabs. This is the tab where you're going to import your videos and other assets like music or photos. If you go ahead and click on Media Browser, you can see the location of all your videos. If your videos are coming from an SD card or a hard drive, you'll see that drive come up somewhere around here. Mine are all located in the Downloads folder on my computer, so I can find that under Users, and then either Public or whatever your user is named, Downloads. I double click on that and all my videos come up. That is the location I used the last time, so it automatically comes up with that. But you might have to go into different folders to find your different videos. So now I can see all of my videos and my other assets. If I double click on one, it's going to open it up into the source monitor over here. And now I can play through it, or I can grab this and scroll through and see if that's the one that I want. So you can do that for all of your clips if you'd like to. So go ahead and select all of the assets that you want to use, either by clicking and dragging, making a box outside of all of your clips and highlighting them all, or you can do Command or Control if you're using a Windows computer, and you can just click and select the ones that you want. I want all these, so I am just going to highlight and select them all. Now you're going to want to right-click on any of those that are selected, and you'll click on Import. And that is going to import your files from your media browser, from wherever they came from on your computer, to your project tab. Now you can go back to your assembly tab at any time, go back to your media browser and import more assets, but for now, let's move on to editing. So we can go ahead and click on editing up here. So you can see when I click on the editing tab, that changes our workspace a little bit. On our upper left side is our source monitor. This is where we can view our videos and even cut them up before we put them into our timeline. On the bottom left is where all of our imported assets went. Just like in the assembly tab, if I double click on a video in here, it'll bring it up in the source monitor. So let's actually look at this clip that I have in the source monitor right now. I like this, but I actually only want to use a certain section of it. If I mark in and out points in my source monitor before I drag it into the timeline, it'll put just that portion that I want in my sequence. So to do that, I can click on these buttons right here. That's your mark in, and that is your mark out. Or an easier way to do that is you can just press I on your keyboard for in and O for out. So let me select a little bit of a bigger section here. Let's see, so it kind of goes out of focus. Maybe I want just a little bit of that out of focus. I'm going to press I to mark my in. I'll play it a little bit. And I'll stop it right about there and press O. So you can see that selected a certain portion of this video. And I can drag this clip over to our bottom right into the timeline, and that will start our sequence. Now you can see the same thing just popped up over here. When I play the videos in my sequence, it shows up in my program monitor. So this is showing you what your edited video looks like. So If I exported my video right now, it would look like that. So you'll see that adding an asset into your timeline gives you some new things to look at. So let's look a little bit more closely. The top 3 channels over here labeled V1, V2, and V3 are our video channels. So when you drag a video into your timeline, let me zoom in a little bit so we can see more of our video right here. It'll automatically snap into one of your video channels. If I drag another video into my timeline on a higher channel than this one, whatever is on top will take precedence. So if I take this video and drop it into V2, where it's overlapping that first video, when I click play, it's going to play whatever is on top when the playhead hits it. So this is great if you're doing a picture-in-picture situation or if you're cutting a multicam video, so you can stack all of your video clips up in sync and easily cut in between them by just alternating what clip is on the top. In this case, I want my videos to play one at a time, so let me go back over. I can just click and drag this clip over to the end of our first one, and it's going to snap right to the end of that. And you might notice I didn't edit this one down at all in my source monitor, but that is completely fine. If I go over here, I can find my tools. If I click on this one right here, our razor tool, or you can press C and that'll select your razor. I can cut this video at any point that I want it to start. So let's say I want it about here. When I click on that, it separates it into 2 parts at the cut point. And now I can just go back to my tools, click on Selection Tool, or press V on your keyboard. And I can select that clip of video that I don't want and press Delete or Backspace on your keyboard, and it'll get rid of that. Now, what if I actually cut too much of that and I want to extend that start point back a few seconds? If I hover over the beginning of my clip, if there's any additional material in your source, it'll show you a little red bracket with an arrow that is pointing towards your clip, if you can see right there. So click and drag on this and you can extend your clip back out without having to undo anything. And the left side of your program monitor is showing you what's coming before. So there's just a gap before this video, so it's not showing anything. But the right side is showing that video. So maybe I want it about there. It'll just extend it back to that point. So now, like I've just mentioned, because we've cut that second clip down a bit, there is a gap in our timeline right here. If I leave this gap, when I play the sequence, it'll just show a silent black screen, just like that. So we want to make sure that we are closing any gaps we create before we finalize our video. To do this really easily without messing up the alignment of anything else that we have later in the sequence, go ahead and right-click on that gap and then select Ripple Delete. And this moves everything to the right of the gap down to snap up against the left side. Now let's take a look at our bottom 3 channels, A1, A2, and A3. These are our audio channels. If I import a video with sound, it's going to place the visual component into the video channel and the audio component into the audio channel. So you can see that the first one that I imported has audio attached, the second one does not. And when you put that video in the V1 slot, it'll automatically put your audio into A1, but if you want it on a different channel, you can just click and drag it and drop it down into a different one, and that goes for video as well. So for this sequence, I actually don't want any of the recorded audio because I'm going to insert a music track at the end. To mute everything in this track, you can go to your audio track, find the little M icon right here, and that'll mute your whole track so that no sound placed on that track will play in your sequence. The opposite of that, if you have all of the sound that you want to use on the same track, you can click this S icon, and that is your solo. So that will solo that one track and mute every other track. Now, if you'd rather just delete the audio that came with that video clip, you can do that too. But you'll see if I just try to select that audio and then hit my delete button, it deletes our video clip too. if you lock your video channel, right here, there's a little lock icon, toggle track lock it says. I can lock that video channel, and then I can select that audio, and now I can delete it without affecting the video. And you can do the opposite as well. If you lock your audio track, then you could delete your video track and not affect your audio. I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. And I actually will delete that audio. And you're going to want to make sure that you unlock that channel after you do that so that you can continue to add or make changes to that channel. Because if I tried to put anything onto that locked video channel, you can see it's not going to let me do that. So I'm just going to unlock that one. And I'll put this one back on the same track. Now I'm going to go back over into my assets and find that music file that I imported. That's this one right here that just looks like a waveform. And I can click that and put it into my source monitor. You can do your in and out points from there, but I think I will just drag it into my timeline and drop it into A1. And just like this one up here, because it has no other assets attached to it, so for this one, no video attached to it, it is only going to go into the audio channel. And if I scroll all the way over and find the end of my music track, you can see when I hover over it, it's giving me that same red bracket tool that we used before. I can click and drag that, and I'll be able to shorten it to the length of our video. So find the end of your video, and it's just going to snap onto there. So those are all of your most basic steps to getting started on video editing in Premiere Pro. So let me go ahead and finish up this sequence, and I will show you how to save your project and export it. Okay, so now that my video is done, let's go ahead and look at our very last steps for this course. If you're not done with your video and you want to save it, I always recommend saving a copy of your project file in more than one place. If you're using your own computer, it'll save your project file locally and you can access it at any time. But if you're using one of our library computers, you really want to make sure that your project is saved on a flash drive or a hard drive that you can take with you and plug back in the next time you come in to edit, because the library computers will wipe everything on the computer itself at the end of your session. So go ahead and click on File, and then Save As, and then select wherever you'd like it on your computer or in your hard drive, and that way you have a copy of your project file. And then if you're completely done with your video, you can click on File, Export, and Media. And that'll bring up this window. So let's go ahead and look at our export settings. Now, I typically will choose this H.264 as my format, but you are welcome to do QuickTime as well. That works just as well. The rest of these formats, you don't really need to worry about. I would say it's between this one or this one. So I'm going to click on this one. And now there are a ton of presets with the H.264, and it kind of depends on where your video is going after you export it, which one of these settings you want to choose. Any of them that say 1080p are great for videos being posted to various social media sites, and it won't kill your quality. So if you're posting on Facebook, you could choose this one. I typically choose the YouTube 1080p. It works for anywhere you want to post it, but especially YouTube. Anything that's under 1080p, like these that say 720 or 480, will export at a much lower quality, but the file size will be a lot smaller if that's something that's important to you. Anything above 1080p is not really necessary unless you shot your videos in 4K and are really concerned about keeping that quality. But the file size will also be very large, and it takes a significant amount of time to export and upload elsewhere if you're exporting in this 2160p 4K. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this YouTube 1080p. And you can change the name of your file if you click right here where it says output name. And I'll just call mine nature again. And it should save as an MP4. There might be other options when you click on this. I would suggest an MP4, but a .wav works just as well. So you can go ahead and click on save. And you'll want to make sure that you're exporting both video and audio, so make sure that both of these boxes right here are checked. Don't worry about changing any of these other settings in here. Now click on export, and your final video will export with all of the edits that you made. And depending on how long your video is, it could take longer than mine. Mine was pretty short, so it exported very successfully in about 10 seconds. If your video is 30 minutes long, it might take you about 30 minutes to export. If you want to learn more about Premiere Pro or any other Adobe programs, visit gwinnettpl.org/learninglabs and click on Book a Librarian to request an appointment with a specialist at one of our Learning Lab locations. So that is all for our first intro to Adobe Premiere Pro. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.